was a time when I mained Pachy, all the way back in Update 6. Was it inescapably broken at the time? Absolutely. Were there changes that needed to be made for the good of the game? Of course. The current state of Pachy on Gateway, however, is devastating. I spawned into Northeast Plains, one of only 2 spawn zones that Pachy has available to it, and headed toward the nearest sanctuary. Pachy is one of the only herbivores that I bother taking to the sanctuary, since it can remain there until 65% growth, and is unable to see its migration path before that point. Unfortunately, this makes early life incredibly dull. With things having settled down and most people accepting that sanctuaries are a death sentence, they have, ironically, become the sanctuary they were intended to be. After getting my fill of the mushrooms, it was a simple matter of picking the nearest cycad tree, and then completely ignoring my PC for the next 30 minutes. I wasn't worried about someone coming along and killing me, and I had limitless food and safe water nearby. All I had to do was wait. Upon reaching subadult, I was banished to the beach for the next 2 hours. No one ever goes there. They have no reason to. And with Pachy in its current state, I felt that finding others was an extremely rare occurrence. Anyway, when the migration zone finally changed, I was thrilled to get a move on. I wasn't sure where my new zone was, only that it was significantly far from where I had been. As I passed through a forested area, I heard movement behind me. Pachy is intended to be a break-and-run animal when threatened. This Carno hadn't seen me, but was clearly headed to where I needed to go. Better to try and put him out of commission for a few minutes, so I could continue safely, without worrying he'd spot and ambush me later. Unfortunately, my plan backfired. Not only did I not break his leg, now he recognized the easy meal fleeing before him. He came speeding out of the darkness, and I managed to tap ram just in time to parry the charge that would have otherwise gotten me killed. Into the trees and away, I left the broken-legged Carno behind. I survived this time, but took absolutely massive damage that I would need to heal off before continuing my journey. Morning came as I entered Delta River. I was still a long way from my migration zone, but at least there was water here. The Carno from earlier in the evening, though, was also here, and he'd found a friend. They passed by, either oblivious or simply uninterested in hunting me. After getting water and resting to try and heal, the server restarted. When I returned, it was dark. I crossed the river and headed for the nearest rock, only to get extremely unlucky.
Gosh dang it!
Regrowth, sitting in the sanctuary AFK style. At least this time I saw a baby Tenno. As I hit 65% and was able to see migration, I found that I was once more banished to the beach. Great. Several hours alone at the beach later, my migration had changed to an area beside Northeast Lake. I could hear another Pachy in the distance, but as this area is quite literally the new center spawn, I didn't dare call out to it. Calling out or not, it didn't matter. I was in a wide open plain with nowhere to hide and very few trees. It was only a matter of time before the raptors found me. With Pounce the way it currently is, and bucking essentially useless, I knew I was in trouble. Between the lag, the rubber banding, and the wonky latency, Hitting the raptors at all was a miracle in and of itself. Add on the slight cooldown between Pachy's attacks, and you get a complete inability to take advantage of any hit landed as a solo Pachy. Two deaths in, and I knew I needed some backup. I put out a call in my Discord server. If the devs want Pachy to be viable only in a herd, then by golly was I going to create one. First to join me was Bjorn. He's a big fan of Pachy, so he was ready for action. While we waited for others to join in, we wandered out into the northeast plains to see what was going on. For once, it was incredibly quiet. A Carno, maybe two in the distance, and an AFK fresh spawn standing in the field. We began to make our way back toward the sanctuary. Others had joined the server, and we needed to go meet up with our quickly growing herd. A sprinting Carno startled me, and we were immediately on the offensive. As soon as its leg broke, we got out of there, leaving him to deal with his fracture. A few misguided decisions later, however, I had a busted leg and Bjorn, well. After healing my leg, I began looking for Bjorn again. The Carno from before blocked my way. Not that he knew he was doing it, but I wasn't going to risk him ambushing me. Did his leg break? Not a clue. But he didn't chase me, so I'll consider it a win. By midday, the herd was complete. Now I felt much safer. Nothing would want to touch a herd of 8 Pachys. Except, perhaps, a Dino. We continued to make our way around the lake. This area is notorious for mixed packers, and with so many of us, we could wipe out that particular plague quite nicely when we found it occurring. Eventually, though, we were once more banished to the beach. At least this time I wasn't completely alone. We decided to nest, as there wasn't much else to do while we waited to leave. I'm not sure what exactly happened to 3 of my children, but the 2 that remained joined us in migrating back to the north when the time came. An extremely unlucky raptor crossed our path, and despite my bleeding heart attempt to throw myself between the herd and the desperate raptor, he didn't make it.
Oh, guys, he doesn't even have any stam! Poor dude. Oh, poor guy.
In a herd this large, as I mentioned before, nothing is willing to fight you. Our screams sent everyone scurrying away from the lake, leaving only dinos to mess with. Having lost 2 during our only real action of the day, the herd sat to heal, and I, out of diets and planning to log out very soon, set out to the most scarce migration zone I've ever seen. Full on food, but low on water and stamina, I logged out for the day. My return was as chaotic as it could possibly be. Night, but sunny initially. Surrounded by raptors, with my keybinds reset to default and my stamina bar not updating out the gate. Luckily for me, only one of the raptors, a juvenile, gave chase. The rest allowed me to flee unopposed. I moved on to my migration zone, which was, of course, the lonely beach. At least this time there were some fresh spawn Ceratos beating each other up to keep me entertained while I sat in my perpetual torment. In the midst of my bleak and lonely existence, another Pachy appeared. Awkward moment passed, my beacon of hope peeled off their fracture, and we set off to break some bones. Or at least that was the plan before the server restarted and I never saw them again. Pachy on Gateway has been a rather frustrating experience. Between spending my entire growth AFK rather than moving about the way I'd prefer, being banished to parts unknown for much of my life, and either dying instantly when solo or being completely avoided when in a herd, let's just say I'm glad this experience came to an end. I'm gonna go play some Cerato and forget this whole mess. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to leave a like and a comment. If you're new, consider subscribing for more content like this. Join my Discord server. The link is in the description. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.